We are live. Hello, everyone. This is fun.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while since we've done a live video, and I don't think we've ever done. I don't think we've ever done a live video where I actually emailed people and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing a live video at this time." So, congratulations to us for giving you guys advance notice that we're going to be live, and we're live on Instagram and on Facebook. So, if I'm looking, that's why. Yeah, so we're really excited. We have a new thing. So just to kind of tell you right off the bat, we are launching Awareness School, which I'm super duper excited about. I had this idea a while back to just a little bit of background. If you guys don't know us, I'm Melissa, this is Steve. We met in chiropractic school, so we're chiropractors, and several years into doing chiropractic, we found ourselves on a different kind of journey, a journey of meditation and looking into mindset stuff, mostly for, stuff that was going on between us. Lack of total, I guess, clarity and awareness of my own mindset and Steve's mindset. And so it took us on a journey of learning a lot about ourselves, a lot about how we create our experience of reality. And I learned that the way I was creating my reality was kind of dysfunctional. It was creating for me a lot of problems. So I would have anxiety, I'd create fights, I'd have, issues and problems, and I had no idea where they came from. I thought it was just me. I thought I was crazy. I actually told Steve when we first started hanging out, listen, I'm just crazy, and so take it or leave it. This is the way that I am. And I genuinely believed that it was just the way that I was, that I had problems, I had issues, I had, jealousy and insecurities and all of these problems, and through this journey, we kind of learned a lot about ourselves and about each other, about the mind, about, this thing. Do you have a mental map? Do you have a model that helps you to organize and understand your reality? And so yeah, Steve created this amazing course that helped me tremendously on my journey. I would not be helping people, coaching people, sharing how to improve what it's like to be you with people if it wasn't for this course and this program. And so the Awareness School that we're launching in a couple of weeks is really to help hold your hand as you go through this amazing program. So that's just to kind of plant that seed of what we're doing. But tonight we want to talk about this thing of the mental map, having a mental model, which is crazy that when you're a child, you're not given, hey, this is kind of how your mind works. It's not exactly how your mind works because your mind's a big mystery and we don't know exactly how it works, but this is a really useful model for navigating life and what it's like to be you. And this stuff, it's something that we all should have been given, but nobody gives it to you. And you kind of piece it together throughout your journey through books and courses and other people's experiences, and part of it is just you figuring out how things work. Maybe you take psychedelics and you're like, whoa, there's more to this than what I originally thought. So tonight we want to talk about, this thing called a mental map, a mental model, and if you have it, how it's helpful, and if you don't have it, how it's really a source of great struggle.
Yeah, so going back to when we were in school and when we got into a relationship, and I think our relationship was a lot of fun, and life in general was pretty fun for both of us. I would say on the whole, and life together was pretty fun. But I had this feeling that there were problems that we did have, difficulties with arguing or misunderstanding, or we said we were going to start this project and we didn't start the project, and now we're feeling guilty about it or bad about it, or what if and it seemed like a lot of the stuff about our lives that we didn't like, it seemed like that stuff wasn't inevitable, it was obviously our current kind of default setting. But there was also this kind of, I don't know, I had this vague suspicion or this kind of feeling or this inkling that's okay, one of two things is going to happen here. Either we're going to just kind of learn to cope with life as it currently is, which is that it's pretty fun, but there are certain kind of, it's kind of like when you're hiking or you're walking somewhere and there's a pebble in your shoe, and it's not like a thumbtack, it's not like a huge, sharp, jagged rock, it's like a kind of a little rock. It's not in the worst possible place, but it's in a place that's kind of uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, but I hate putting on my shoes and taking my shoes off. I hate tying. It goes back to when I was a kid and I was really bad at tying my shoes. I just don't like it. It's a pain in the ass. You put them on, you got to take them off again, whatever. But when you're walking and you're going to be walking for a while, are you going to take the time to stop? You value your experience enough to stop, untie your shoe. I'm like a triple knotter too, so it makes it even worse. And take the pebble out and maybe people get ahead of you, maybe you're a few minutes or a few seconds or moments behind where you wanted to be, and you get that sense you already felt like you're running late. Take the shoe off, take the pebble out, walk comfortably and probably more effectively and efficiently and certainly more enjoyably to your destination. Or you're just going to go, I can handle that, I can bear that pebble, it's not that bad. And that was kind of like the decision point at which we had arrived in our lives, which was, if we don't take these pebbles out of our individual shoes and out of our kind of collective relationship shoes here, we're going to be kind of walking and hobbling with this thing. And if a pebble doesn't hurt too much at first, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 miles in, then tissue starts getting tender, it starts to get more and more of a problem. And so a lot of, I guess, what started us into this kind of trajectory was like, God, life is pretty fun, but there's also a lot of crap about it that we don't like. There's a lot of experiences. I don't like having this type of fight with you. I don't think you like having this type of fight with me. Doesn't it seem like two intelligent people, if they put their minds to it, ought to be able to figure out how to address the stuff that goes into having this kind of a fight happen? And that's sort of a small start that then sort of gathered its own momentum and really picked up speed over time. And so I think that, like, everybody, this isn't about like you being messed up necessarily, or you having like terrible problems that are so serious you need a course to fix them, right? So, like, if that was what it was about for me, I would have never started it, because I didn't feel like I had really serious bad problems. I mean, maybe other people did. I was pretty happy.
I did. I had some problems.
Other people might have thought I had problems, but I was pretty happy with what it was like to be me. There were just areas and rooms for improvement. There were certain things that I felt that, like, I'd like to not feel so annoyed all the time. Man, I'd like to not feel defensive. I'd like to not feel so hostile. I'd like to, I'm kind of negative. I kind of like saying a lot of stuff about other people that isn't very nice in my head, and that I don't even really mean. I don't even know why that voice is there, right? And it was a decision to start seeing, here's my life on autopilot, here's my mind on autopilot. It's not half bad. I mean, could be a lot worse, right? But I wonder if I took the time to go in there and to look at the switchboards and look at the settings and look at all this different stuff. I wonder what would happen if I took my default settings and started customizing them, so that I wasn't just who I was being shaped by sort of like unconscious stuff as a result of things that happened in my life earlier on. What if I started kind of like custom making myself, custom making my personality, right? So I'm going to hang on to the things that I like, but a lot of the things that maybe I'm identified with, that I feel like, well, I'm kind of a jerk, or I'm kind of a this or that, what if that's not something that's intrinsic to me? What if that feeling of insecurity or unworthiness or whatever it is, what if that's not like an inevitability for me? That's not a fundamental aspect. What if that just happens to be the way some of my settings are set because of some stuff that happened to me earlier in my life? And what if I can find a way to actually go in and change that? Not to bullshit and kind of shove it down or act like I'm over it when I'm not. But what if there's actually a way to start changing certain aspects of the way my mind works, so that I can create more positive experiences, I can just feel better, and I can kind of like engineer inclinations to do things that feel good to have done, so that I'm enjoying myself while doing things that I'll enjoy having done, and that will start creating results in my life that I want. And oh, by the way, I'm having fun while I'm doing all of that stuff. Like, what if doing good, productive things doesn't have to be arduous? What if I don't have to feel bad about making mistakes? What if I can get excited about doing, better next time? Or what if I can actually reorient myself, my relationship to myself, my relationship to reality, in ways that cause me to perform better in every area of life that I care about? And that includes like emotional performance. I feel better more of the time. Mental performance, I'm thinking more clearly. I'm having better ideas. I'm acting on those ideas instead of just having it and letting them go away. I mean, I look at the behaviors that I engaged in over the course of the day, and I go, pretty good. Pretty good. This was, you know what I mean? Like, what if I can make it so that I'm naturally inclined to do better at all of the things that feel good for me to do, right? Or to do, all of the stuff. There's areas of life that feels good to perform well in, right? And what if I could make it so that it was natural and normal for me to perform well in those areas, just by flipping a couple of default switches? Now, it might take some time to flip the switches, may be uncomfortable to flip the switches, may take a while to find the switch so that I can flip it. Where is this behavior coming from? Where's this thought pattern coming from? Whatever. But it's an investment, not an expense. It's taking that pebble out of that shoe. It's, yes, we We had to stop using our computer for a while, and it's true that we could have typed out 2,000 words, right? We could have gotten a lot of work done in the time that that computer was rebooting, but oh my God, this new operating system has completely changed everything about the performance capabilities of this computer. It's not a hardware limitation, it was a software limitation. It's not a problem with me, it's a problem with a belief that's in my mind, or it's a problem with a mental loop that runs on autopilot all of the time, right? And it's sort of in a way, I mean, the ultimate in what people call like self-care or self-love, right? Is this thing where you, I mean, in a very kind of real practical way, is that you stop and say, God, my unconscious settings could be set in a way that would be better for me and that would let me create more of what I want in life. I'm going to take the time, make the investment of money and time and effort and all the discomfort, whatever it is that it takes, to switch those things, because I trust that getting myself properly calibrated is a worthwhile investment that's going to pay dividends for me. It's going to be worthwhile, that I'm going to be glad that I did. That's a tremendous affirmation of, confidence in yourself. When you go like, my experience is worth improving. It's possible for me to improve my experience. Those two things together, that's like a very powerful combination of ideas that I think sometimes people, they'll have one or they'll have the other. They'll believe it's possible for them to feel better, but there's something inside that's kind of like, oh, but who cares? Even if I feel better, I'm still a schlub. I'm still behind. I'm still not the way I want to be. You know what I mean? Or they'll say, God, I'm worth it. I know I want to feel better. I know that I definitely would do whatever I needed to do to feel better, but I don't think it's possible for me to feel better. I don't think it's possible for me to be really different than I am. And it's sort of a little depressing to have one without the other. But when you get both going at one time, you're in a really good place. It's possible to improve what it's like to be me. It's worth improving what it's like to be me. I deserve to improve what it's like to be me. I'm going to be glad to have improved what it's like to be me once I did it. Then, a very powerful relationship to yourself begins to emerge, where you start accessing all sorts of internal resources that make it possible, make it easy and natural for you to do things that a former version of yourself maybe didn't even really believe was possible.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, and I tried personal growth stuff. I took courses. I was like, oh, I'm going to fix this problem. I remember we were somewhere and I bought this big stack of books and audio and all of this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the thing that helps me. And it was cool and it was interesting. Have you ever read something and you're just like, oh, yes, this is exactly what I need. This is going to change my life. But then it doesn't. But then, like, the information that seems so good and is so good, there was some kind of disconnect where you weren't able to actually use it. You weren't able to connect to that resource. And for me, I discovered after, like, creating and formulating and having this framework, this internal structure for organizing my experience, I was missing that. So I was like missing this scaffolding. I was missing this framework that allowed me to actually have access to, I mean, it's like having a bunch of tools like in a drawer versus having them organized versus knowing exactly where to get the thing. And I didn't realize, because I'm kind of I had been a very scattered sort of person. It's like, oh, I didn't have access to the tool, to the resource, to that great book I read, because I didn't know where it could be useful in my experience in that moment. And so the thing about the Ever Better Life course in Awareness School, it's kind of like this prerequisite for using all of the great stuff that you've been exposed to, all the great books that you have, all of the great, work that you've studied. But for some reason, if it doesn't seem to be making like a true connection to your moment-to-moment life, where you're like, I know this. And I talk to people every single day, and most people already know the stuff that we talk about. Like they know of it, they know about it, but for some reason they haven't been able to actually connect and use those tools in their life in the moments when it really matters. And so this program and the thing we're going to be taking you through, it's like this base. We got to start at the groundwork. So we're not starting at the big fancy, let's change this and change. We've got to understand the foundation. And actually, kind of in preparation for this new launch of this program, I've been going through the program for myself again, and it's so refreshing because I find it very wholesome in the sense of like, oh, this is just, it's so clear and it's so simple yet extraordinarily profound to be able to look again at my scaffolding, at this framework, at how powerful it is to know where each experience fits into this overarching system. And that's the thing too, is this work, it's very much, it's pattern, not content. And when I first when Steve started using those words with me, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what that means. But what it means is, like, content is like the stuff that you're dealing with, your problem. This is my problem. And, we want to go right for the problem, and we want to deconstruct the problem and fix it and make it go away. But understanding the pattern, it's understanding the framework into which this particular problem fits. This is getting to the groundwork. Why do I keep having to pull this particular weed? Oh, well, there's some part of my framework, some part of my internal structure that's designed to plant a weed right here, to create this problem over and over again. And so it's, instead of going after the individual weed, instead of going after the individual problem, this framework, having a mental model, helps you to zoom out. And that zooming out is so profound, because it's when you're in your problem, when you're in the anxiety, when you are in the jealousy, when you are in the insecurity and the fear, that is when life sucks and everything's terrible, and you're just like, oh gosh, I just need any kind of relief. And people will grab for any kind of relief to get out of these experiences. But having a framework, having a model, allows you to zoom out. It allows you to see, okay, where is this fitting in? Okay, it allows you kind of to become a technician. So, because when you are very emotional, when you're in the problem, it's very hard to go to work on it. It's like when you're driving in your car, you can't work on the engine. It's hard to, make the changes, do the shifts when you're like full on 70 miles an hour down the highway in the panic attack, in the, emotional overwhelm. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to have a framework, have this map, so you can see, this is where this fits in. This is why this is a problem. And it becomes objective. Instead of being totally and completely subjective and so difficult, you're like, I feel like I've got some distance here. I can see where this is coming from. I understand how this fits into the framework of who I am. There's this quote that I love, and it's such a good quote, but it's like, what does that really mean? It's like, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. It's like, oh, okay. So I don't see, just objective reality. I used to think that I just see it the way it is. I'm just realistic, and and this happened to me, and that happened to me, and I learned, the tough way, the street smarts of, this is how people are, and this is how, and I didn't realize how my trauma, how the stuff that happened to me shaped me and caused me to see the world in a particular way. It caused me to not hear certain things, or to alter and distort the stuff that I did hear. And I just thought I was just telling it like it is, just looking at reality and experiencing it pure. I didn't realize the layers and layers and layers of subjective alterations I was making to the information I was receiving from my world, that was shaping everything about how I saw everything. And so this work, it is understanding the lenses. It's understanding your perception, because it's your perception is everything. There's not reality, there's everybody's unique and individual perception of this reality. And if you don't know the ways in which you are distorting reality to fit whatever version of the world you have kind of grown up to believe, this is how the world is, this is how people are, this is how I am, if you don't understand the exact ways in which you are altering that information, it's shaping everything about you. It's determining everything about the way you feel, what you're capable of. It creates all of these limits, all of these boxes, all these identities and things that you're tied to. And it's by seeing. This is awareness. It truly is everything. That's why this is called awareness school. It's going to school for this most basic and fundamental and almost throwaway. People think that they understand what awareness is, and I thought I did too. It's like, I'm aware. I'm aware that I'm jealous. I'm aware that I can be irritable. I'm aware that I can, cause fight. I'm aware. I was not aware. I knew about it. And so this is the thing, is if you think, I'm a very aware person, and a lot of people will tell me, I'm very aware, I'm very self-aware. And I challenge you to step back from that assumption that you are totally self-aware and to see, am I still having this problem? Does this issue still keep coming up? If it is, you're not aware. You know about it, but you're not aware of all of the ecosystem from which this problem is sprouting up. And Awareness School will help you to understand and learn the ecosystem from which all of these, dysfunctional behaviors and emotional patterns and reactions are sprouting. And when you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder, of course. And this is this beautiful thing of self-understanding. I love self-understanding because when you understand yourself, you don't have to beat yourself up anymore. You don't have to feel bad. You can say, oh, this all makes perfect sense. Even this inclination to feel bad makes perfect sense from that perspective that I was viewing it from. But from up here, I can see, and it's like this refreshing, wonderful, wholesome feeling of empowerment, of ability, of, oh, I can work with this. I can do something about this. I'm not destined to feel this feeling forever. I'm not destined to have this problem forever. This isn't, and that's the thing is I used to think this is just me. This is who I am. I had problems. I had trauma. I had damage. Therefore, I am damaged in these ways and will be for forever. But seeing how much control and power I had over my perception of the trauma, and it's freedom. It's freedom because you are no longer tied to what has been done to you or experiences that you had a part in, but you wished it didn't happen the way that it happened. And you're like, well, because it happened that way, I'm forever damaged. And when you start seeing that's not true, everything is changeable. Everything is work withable. It's just this relaxation. It's this freedom. It's fun. It's really, you get to, like, this whole study is about you. It's self-study. It's like, do you really want to get to know yourself? Do you really want to see how and why exactly you are and experience the world in the way that you do? And you want to have the power to change it. And that's why I'm so excited to be going through it in this particular way where we go through it together. We've never done this before. We've had people take the course and then do one-on-one coaching as they go through it. But this is going to be weekly school. We're going to, you're going to go through the modules and the lessons, learn it, use it, see how things change for you using this particular framework. And then we're going to do classes about it so that we can talk about it, break it down, make it even more explicit and clear and understandable how to use this to improve your life. And so, whether you're like an individual and you're just like, I want to feel better, or you're a coach and you're like, I need a framework, a way to help people, this is going to be great for everyone.
Yeah, one of the things that you said was like, if the problem is persisting, maybe I feel like I'm aware, but I'm not really aware because the problem's still there. And in my experience, there's a level of awareness at which the fact that there's a problem becomes obvious. There are certain people that are kind of oblivious to things that they're doing, or there's people who can feel bad without even knowing it. And there's a certain level of awareness at which I begin to say, God, I kind of don't like myself. I kind of don't like certain things about. There's a phase in the cycle of what it's like to be me that I don't really like, and so that's a level of awareness at which like the problem becomes clear. And a lot of people just stop right there. That's kind of the worst place to be, because it would be nice just to be totally oblivious to it, even though you're unhappy, but to be aware of the fact that you're unhappy and to feel like that the awareness bar is full and life sucks, right? Is sort of a mistake. So there's a level of awareness at which I become aware that I have a problem and the problem is obvious, and then there's a level of awareness beyond that where the solution becomes obvious. And in fact, it becomes so obvious that it's not even like, oh, there's the solution, let me do it. It's almost like the solution just happens, And one of the kind of principles, one of the kind of little quips, that we came up with that kind of encapsulates what Awareness School is all about and why it's good and why somebody might want to take it, is that an organized experience is easily improved. And, what that means is we talk a lot about what it's like to be you. And this is, it's how you're feeling, but it's also like what's going on in your head. What are you saying to yourself? What skills do you have that allow you to deal effectively with maybe not so pleasant feelings, with feelings that maybe are nice? Can you kind of ride that wave and parlay that into other things that you can feel good about? Are you aware of your behaviors? Do you recognize the behaviors for what they are? To what extent are you in control of your inclinations, what you're inclined to do? Can you set yourself up to be inclined to do what's useful and overcome inclinations maybe to do what's not useful in situations where it's tactically essential that you overcome an inclination to do something that's going to create a big mess, And so what it's like to be you is kind of the sum total of all of that. It's the quality of your experience, but it's also your experience of your experience, right? Which arises as a result of how well equipped am I to deal with the experience that I'm having, independent of what that experience is at a given moment in time. It's possible to be having not a great time, but to feel prepared and to feel up to the task and to feel competent and well equipped to handle that unpleasant experience. then your experience of that not so great experience is actually pretty good. It's the difference between feeling like, it could have been better, and feeling like you're drowning in an overwhelm kind of situation. So an organized experience is easily improved. And one of the things that really, what the Ever Better Life Course is a framework for organizing your experience and a framework for building the kind of awareness that will allow you to exercise really conscious choice, a lot of, much more conscious choice throughout your day, to respond in ways, because the reality of your life, we don't know what your life is like. We don't know what you're dealing with. We don't know what your aspirations are. And so I don't like the idea of giving somebody a script and saying, here, go do this. Here's Steve's script, and you live your life this way, and everything will be great. That doesn't work. That's that kind of content stuff that you were talking about before. I would rather try to convey to you certain strategies for effective improvisation that I've discovered, like a jazz musician. Like, you can't, one of the things about jazz improv is that, there are certain skills that you learn, and in order to be able to kind of just let it rip on the saxophone, but there's also a point at which, you got to turn it over. You got to kind of do the Alan Watts thing and just get with that thing that keeps on going and roll with the punches, REO Speedwagon style. There's an element of kind of spontaneity that you don't want to stifle. And a lot of personal and spiritual growth stuff, sometimes, if it's not great, or if a person maybe kind of approaches it in maybe not the most useful way, it can have the effect of stifling the individual. And so what we're really looking for are ways to amplify your spontaneous expression of like your real, kind of authentic, true self. The you that you become as a result of paying attention to what goes into making you the way that you are, right? And amplifying the choices that you make as a result of being more acutely aware of the fact that what you're doing is making a choice, and being acutely aware of what choice you're making, and being acutely aware of what the consequences of that choice are likely to be. That's what we're really all about, is creating an environment within the individual, which is you, right, that allows you to operate in a way that's maximally resourceful on your own terms, so that you get to be, it's kind of the best version of yourself, right? But that's not I don't think the best version of you is someone who never has dessert and always goes for a run. Like, the best version of you is the version of you that's fully conscious in each moment and chooses what she chooses to do on the basis of what she deems most likely to improve what it's like to be her moving forward. That's the jazz improv, right? Now, your jazz improvisation is going to be your cosmic jazz improvisation, your life experience improvisation, your behavioral improvisation. It's going to be different than mine. It's going to be different than Melissa's, right? But there are certain skills, and there are certain kind of themes and patterns, and there are certain kind of sequences, right, of internal action that will underlie my best improvisation, your best, but that will allow me, that will allow you to really play the mental instrument, like your mental saxophone, your mind, in a way that produces something that you're like, damn, that sounds pretty good. So kind of when you're on a roll and you're kind of listening to yourself play the instrument, you're like, wow, I can't even believe, is this me doing this? Life kind of takes on that quality. And what the course is designed to do is it's a really wonderful thing, because we don't tell you what to believe, right? We don't even tell you to believe that it's possible for you to be successful. As general and innocuous and kind of universally acceptable of a suggestion that would be, we don't even get into that. What we get into is building awareness around your relationships to beliefs, so that you can see what you can see what you believe, and you can see what your relationships to those beliefs and to beliefs in general are. And then, so we're building a critical mass of awareness within you, right? We're unlocking it, we're activating it, whatever. We're facilitating it, we're making it happen. And then we're letting what happens as a result of that awareness happen. And you just trust that it's going to be good, because it always is. You always choose what serves you when you're choosing with awareness, when you're choosing consciously. And so, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of cleaning up. Like, sometimes when someone passes away or something like that, you got to go into their house and clean out all the stuff, and a lot of times a lot of junk in there. Or sometimes it's your house, that has all the junk, and you've been so kind of overwhelmed and busy and on autopilot, meaning to get to things later, that mail piles up, stuff piles up, and all this different stuff. And if you don't have, it's like when I was growing up in my family, we didn't. There wasn't a place where things went. right? There were places that some things went, but there's a lot of stuff that didn't have a place, and there were a lot of places that didn't have defined stuff that went there. And so as a result of it, everything went everywhere. And then when we set out to begin cleaning, what happened was we almost didn't know what to do, because here's an object, where does it go? Here, I mean, cleaning was this mentally exhausting exercise, because you didn't know where to start, because you were surrounded by stuff, one, and two, you picked something up and you didn't know where to put it, and if you did know where to put it, there was probably stuff there that shouldn't be there, and so you couldn't put it there anyway. And so it was an overwhelming experience. It was demoralizing, it was depressing, it was anxiety inducing, and so we tended to avoid doing it, right? Because it's not fun. It's not fun to undertake a project for which you are unprepared or for which you are not properly equipped. It doesn't feel good. Makes you feel bad about yourself, makes you feel like you're struggling for nothing, you're wasting your time, you end up feeling incompetent or inadequate in some way. It's not fun. What's interesting though is if you've ever had the experience of getting yourself organized so that the mail goes here, the clothes go here, the house could be a disaster area, but you look around and you say, oh, that doesn't belong there, that belongs there. And it becomes this simple process of taking this, putting it here, taking that, putting it there. Oh, that's a negative thought. Oh, that's a this. I know what to do when I find a negative. I don't have to beat myself up for it anymore. I don't have to get stressed out about that negative thought anymore. I have a resourceful response for that. I got a resourceful response for that problem. It becomes, I bought some new shampoo recently, and I don't wash my hair every day. I know this is what you tuned in to hear. I don't, and so I'm kind of excited about the day that it's time for me to wash my hair. You can basically say, I'm excited for my hair to get dirty, so I can use this new shampoo. And if you get a certain OxyClean, I remember when it first came out, it's like I was just waiting to spill something on a white shirt. I was waiting because I wanted to try it out and see how it worked. And life kind of begins to be that way. You start looking forward to screwing up. You start looking forward to having an unpleasant feeling. You start looking forward to getting stuck on a negative thought, because I got a tool for that. And I'm just itching to use it. It's like, the dad would get the tool set at Christmas time, and they'd be looking around for something to tighten, because you got this shiny tool set, there's nothing needs to be fixed. And it's kind of like, pushing something over, hoping to dislodge it so that you can get your tool out and fix it. This course becomes a toolkit, right, for addressing the stuff that is maybe not going so great in your life, so that rather than being depressed or demoralized or overwhelmed, or I'm reluctant to even acknowledge the fact that things are going so badly in this area of life, because I don't know what to do about it. I feel totally unprepared to deal with it, and if I acknowledge it and I don't have a plan of action or some blueprint, drawing board, something to deal effectively with this, I'm going to feel even worse than I feel right now. So I'm just going to continue to push that kind of out of awareness. I'm going to continue to let my autopilot decisions determine what's going on in that area. Of course, those decisions probably aren't that great, right? Because they're autopilot decisions, and probably they're the reason that there's a problem going on there anyway. And so one of the best things that this material has done for me, and this isn't something that I made to fix you. This is something that I took courses, I learned from a lot of people and did my best to distill the most powerful stuff. This was something that made, self-improvement fun for me. And that was one of those things, if I'm going to work out, I got to make it fun, right? If I'm going to consistently manage my money and my finances and do investments and stuff like that, I got to find a way of relating to that project that makes it exciting, that makes it fun, that makes it at a minimum rewarding, right? And one of the things that the Ever Better Life course in general and Awareness School in particular is going to do is it's going to make dealing with your stuff fun, because we're going to, sometimes there's a little bit of a resistance hump to get over, but once you get over it, you start to discover, God, I can engage with this mess, with this stuff, and I can engage with it in a way that's not only not painful, it's actually rather rewarding, and sometimes that brings its own challenges, because it starts to feel unsafe that you don't feel bad or that you feel as good as you do, but we can deal with that when it comes up. But that's basically the idea, is that, because so often what a lot of people do, there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time having a lot of problems and not really doing anything effective to address those problems. And it's not because they're lazy or because they're indifferent or whatever. They're making effort every day. Maybe you've tried this before. You're vaguely aware something about your mindset, something in your life that you need to take care of, and you make an effort every single day to try to do something to create a change in that area. But then, before you know it, it's time to make dinner. Oh, it's time to go to bed. And then you wake up the next morning, and it feels as if you're back at square one at best. Sometimes you're back at square like -3. It's like every time you go to sleep, you wake up and you're right back where you started. And you kind of try again, but your efforts, they're not organized. They're not kind of tactically directed. They're diffused, right? And because they're diffused, they're not potent. And because they're potent, they're not powerful. I think it's potent and power is the same thing. And because they're not potent, they're not effective. They can't. And one of the things that I have found is that a lot of creating the life that you want consists of figuring out, how can I get traction in my self-improvement effort? Which is to say, like, how can I do something today that will survive the diminishment of going to sleep and waking up foggy, groggy, behind the ball, or what? How can I plant a seed today that will still be germinating or in the process of growing tomorrow, even if tomorrow's not a great day? How can I? Because you can make a certain amount of change, and then get distracted, and then that change just kind of goes away. It's kind of like, you go to pottery class, but you don't put the pottery in the kiln. And so you started out with something nice there, but you didn't finish it, and you didn't fire it, and so it just kind of collapsed and fell apart. You see it the next day, like, oh, that work's gone, right? There are ways that you can get to a point where you make a little small change that concretizes, right? That becomes self-perpetuating. That you wake up tomorrow and you notice. I told you about this. I had an experience just yesterday. I said, God, it's so nice to just kind of check in on what my mind is doing, and to discover that my mind is doing the right thing, to discover that it's doing what I want it to do. Like, I'm inclined to not waste my time looking at irrelevant crap. I'm actually inclined. I caught my mind doing something right. You know what I'm saying? And that occurs as a result of this kind of consistent self-observation. And so the course is huge. It's 10 modules. People have taken 10 months to get through it. We're going to be going through it in 10 weeks? And so if you decide to do awareness school, this is probably, and if you really apply it, and if you really drill down into it, and if you really work on mastering this stuff at an experiential, not just an intellectual level, it's probably going to be like a 10-month to a 1-year process for you, in terms of, like, I got material to work with and to mentally digest for the next. I don't have to buy another book. I don't have to do another anything, right, for a good number of months. The nice thing about the awareness school thing is that we're going to spend 10 weeks together. So we're going to go through it all. We're going to get you acquainted with it. Instead of sending you on a blind date with my good buddy, the Ever Better Life course, saying, oh, you guys will love each other, right? And you sit down and you don't know, it's kind of awkward, you don't know how to get started, whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to go on a date together, right? And we're going to kind of chaperone you in the course, and we're going to show you through it, get you really familiar with it, help you to overcome, and not everyone suffers from this, but I know that I do, that initial, I have very little resistance to buying something. But like cracking open my wallet's not a problem. But cracking open the cover and starting to read the book, sometimes there's this resistance there. I don't know what it's going to be. Do I have enough time? I don't, where do I start? God, it's really long. Am I even doing it right? I don't know. The 10 weeks together, in addition to being some really powerful, focused group coaching where we can clarify questions that come up and kind of guide you through that, kind of like your personal stuff, right? Probably the biggest advantage of it is the fact that you're going to have a reason to actually check in and do the stuff that you decided after this video or during this video that you wanted to do, right? We're going to guide you through it, get you familiar with it, build up. Our objective is in this 10 weeks to obviously create a level of competence and to get you excited about it and get you some really good results and stuff, and that will happen. But one of the big things that I want to do is I want to get you familiar enough with the course and with the material and with this approach and with this way of thinking that when you're on your own, the momentum and the inertia inclines you towards continued application, to leaning into the material and your application of it and your elaboration of it, right? Making it your own, putting your stamp on it, creating your results with it, so that it's not like some ideas that we came up with. It's like some ideas that you heard about from us and that you then use to create wonderful stuff in your life, and now it's yours, right? Do that so that we can get you over that initial hump of engagement, because it's, the only thing that's harder than I've forgotten how this works. There's this sequence that I sort of made up, and it's like, it's easier to continue than it is to get started, and it's easier to start than it is to continue not starting and to endure the consequences of continuing to not start doing something that will feel good to have started. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get you to the point where you're already in motion, and all you have to do is keep your hands on the steering wheel and, give it a little gas every now and then. But we want to get you jump started. We want to get you heading in the right direction. There's a lot that can happen in 10 weeks. And we're really excited. So we're going through the course and actually re-recording stuff, so it's fresh and new, hot off the presses. We're going to be talking about it. I mean, it's probably obvious we get pretty hyped up about this stuff. And it's just, it's like, it's no bullshit stuff. It's like, but at the same time, I do want you to get excited about it. It really does, when you start getting creative and when you start getting opportunistic in how you use your mind, and you stop pretending and you start saying, can I really actually get myself to feel differently about this? Is it really, I mean, surely it's got to be possible. My brain is the most complex system in the known universe. There's nothing more, there's billion-something neurons in here. It's got to have the capacity to generate some experience other than whatever experience I happen to be having right now. Not that there's anything wrong with that experience, not that it's bad to be having it, but it's kind of like, if anything were possible, would I want the reality that I have right now? And if the answer is no, then this is a really good way to start exploring the non-default settings for yourself.
Oh, it's so good. And yeah, I really, I kind of, it's funny when I work with people, I almost wish that they've already taken the Ever Better Life course, because, it's kind of like there's so much like deep underground legwork that, again, by the time we're getting to actually deconstructing problems, there's so much kind of fundamental underlying things that, I mean, I just don't have time to talk to people about in like one-on-one sessions. And so if you've ever considered, like looking at resolving your conflicts, and that's one of the cool things, because we started the Ever Better Life course and this work prior to me even discovering what the heck GNM was. And so when I found GNM and discovered it and really digested and started understanding, like, what is this all about? This is about subjective experience. Conflicts are about subjective experience, about the way individuals interpret their world and what is going on. And it's like, oh, so every person experiences conflicts in a different way because of their own personal experiences. Like, because of the things that happened to you in the womb, in your birth process, in your early childhood years, you're kind of primed in certain ways to perceive and experience certain types of separations and abandonment and loss and fear because of the stuff that's happened to you. And so that by understanding this and really seeing all of the like moving parts and pieces that make you, that make you see the world in the particular way that you see it, that's what sensitizes you to experiencing certain conflicts. And so, the Ever Better Life course and the Awareness School work is like this deep fundamental getting to know yourself on such a deep, intimate level and seeing, oh my goodness, this is why I see the world in this way. This is why I haven't been able to break this pattern. This is why, and I love the DIY aspect of this, and this is like with all of the work that we do. Like, I'm not a person, and there's all sorts of techniques and fancy, 3-letter techniques of ways of doing things to help. I'm gonna remove all of your limiting beliefs from you, and I'm gonna zap all of your, your dysfunctions and whatever. I'm not interested in doing that, because that is, that's limited. That's me and you. I'm going to do a technique, whatever on you, and now you're going to be better. I want you to be able to do that. I want you to know where this feeling, where this belief, where this value, where this is arising from, why it holds the position it holds in your psyche, in your nervous system, and I want you to be able to go do the work on it yourself. I want you to have the tools, because I'm not going to be with you in your life. You're going to be with you. And so you need to know how to do this stuff. And so that's why, like, this work, it's so profound and functional and useful for yourself, if you are any type of people helper, if you're a parent, I mean, to be able to know and understand yourself in this way, and to be able to model useful things for your children based on the things that you're resolving, the things you're understanding, and again, it just brings this sense of compassion for self. If you've ever struggled with like self-hatred or, self-criticism, this work is going to help you just to see, no wonder. I've been operating under these spells, under this programming that was so deep in my coding. And that's the thing about this. It's so deep in your operating system, it's so deep in your programming, that it's like you don't even know it's happening. You don't even know the ways in which your perception of the world is so deeply altered because of that early stuff. By seeing it, it's like, no wonder. This is, there's nothing wrong with you. You are not fundamentally flawed. There's nothing broken in you. It's just you have lived experiences that have shaped your perception in certain ways that's causing you to see yourself, see the world, see other people, see money, see relationships, see all of this stuff in certain ways. And it's like, oh, once you see that, it's fixable, it's work withable. You become this technician who's like on this insatiable like adventure to see, oh, I want to see what this brings up in me. I want to see what that brings up in me. Oh, there was a fight. Oh, we had a fight. Where did that come from? And we can go to work on problems, and we can tinker and play and do all sorts of cool stuff, and feel great the whole time while we're doing it. And so this stuff, I feel like it's funny because it's such a fundamental underlying background of all of everything that we do. All of our coaching, like our Radically Resourceful group that meets on Tuesdays, it's this deep work, and we help you deconstruct a problem. And all the Resolve courses, that is us using this fundamental framework for deconstructing an indigestible morsel conflict or a separation conflict or all these different things. And so the cool thing about Awareness School and this opportunity to join us in this, it's you having those deep background fundamental primary tools. And so especially, like I said, if you're a coach, if you're a people helper of any sort, this is going to help you. It may be similar to things you've heard before, but I do think that the specific way that the course is laid out and the stuff and the way that we cover it, it's unique and it's very helpful, and it's going to be really fun. I'm like super jazzed to go through it.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning to code yourself, cosmic coding, so that you can, very often what happens is that if I have a problem, it's like inside I experience, okay, so there's me and there's the problem. And sometimes what I don't realize is that the aspects of the problem of which I'm aware are not all of the aspects of the problem that exist. In fact, there are some aspects of the problem of which I'm aware that are hiding back here and that are influencing the way I perceive, experience, relate, and respond to the problem I'm trying to fix. And if you've ever tried really hard to fix a personal problem and you found that, like, I see it, seems like but my efforts, despite the fact that I'm well-intentioned and determined and I try really hard, they don't work, it's because sometimes some of that problem is living back behind and inside the part of you that's attempting to solve the problem. And what awareness allows you to do is it allows you to see, it's sort of like taking a black light into the hotel room of your mind, and you find out, like, is it, are there things here that I don't want to be here, but if they are here, I want to know they're here so I can do something about it, right? And you begin to see these things, and they become illuminated. And at first, maybe you're a little like, ooh, but you just kind of, it's sort of like, I'm glad I didn't lay down on that comforter, I'm glad I didn't continue living life from that idea. And one of the things that you were talking about was perception. And usually when people talk about perception, they talk about it like it's a noun, it's a thing, and one of the effects that awareness has is that it causes you to start seeing things that you once regarded as static nouns as active processes. And so rather than saying, well, it's just my perception, you actually, it's almost like if you were to look at a table, and you put it under like an electron microscope, right? And let's say that you had a video of it, you could slow it down so that you're like, this is a solid object, it's a table, it's a thing. But if you really slow it down enough, you can actually go, well, this solid object is actually made of a bunch of interrelated processes. And it's a very interesting and kind of surreal experience to be perceiving another person or to be perceiving yourself in an unkind, uncharitable, unlovely, unenriching, not so useful way. And look, you're perceiving them that way, but the perception is still there. But it's not a monolithic block of isness that you can't do anything about. You actually see. And sometimes it's just flickering and flitting, and sometimes it's just kind of a glitch in the matrix at first, right? But you begin to see things that start to open up your mind, that begin to kind of persuade you, that begin to cultivate within you a healthy curiosity and sometimes a healthy suspicion that what seems to just be is actually the consequence of a lot of unseen activity, that if you could get to where you could see that activity, you could modify it And the modification of that activity would then change this thing that just seems to be the way that it is. That's just the way that I feel. That's just the way that I see things. That's just the, that's just the, And it's not even that there's necessarily anything wrong with seeing things the way that you do. You might keep your basic beliefs that you currently have as you go through this course, but you'll be believing those things more consciously. And this is kind of a cool thing. So if there's something that you're believing that's not serving you, if you can become aware enough of the fact that you're believing it and of the fact that it's not serving you and how and why it's not serving you, you can see all of it, the belief will fall away. Now, I don't think anyone I don't think I've alienated anyone. I can't imagine that anyone's like, no, I want to continue believing things that don't serve me, right? On the other hand, let's say that your beliefs are pretty useful for you. They're working, they're helping, they're helpful, they're very likely there are many things that you believe that are worth believing, that are useful in some way or another. If you believe those things that are useful for you to believe with more awareness and more consciously, your experience of believing those things will be more positive. Your ability to act in a way that is sort of with integrity or in accordance with those beliefs will increase. You'll know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And there's something about this, there's something satisfying about that competence. There's something satisfying about knowing what you're doing. I understand what's going on here. I understand more about myself than I did before. This is the opposite of pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We need to open that curtain up and see what that guy's doing. Some of what he's doing may be great. Some of what he's doing may be not so great. But the thing is, there's a guy behind the curtain in your head, and you have a right to know what he's doing because he's doing it in your head. It's not about like, was he doing something bad? Is he deceiving me or lying or making bad? It's not about that. It's like, listen, if you're handling my money, I want to know what you're doing with it. I don't think you're embezzling it, but I want to know what you're doing with it. And if you're doing a good job, well, I want to know that, right? And it's that way. It's trust but verify with your mind, right? Anything in your mental activity that can't stand up to uncritical, sort of non-judgmental, detached observation probably shouldn't be there in the first place. And so a lot of what this is a sort of trust and verify process. It's a weed out the natural things that we accumulate. That there's a lot of stuff there are probably many things that you're doing that don't serve you. And literally the only reason that you're doing those things is that you're not aware of the fact that you tend to do them. And I mean sometimes mental things, like mental activities. And it hasn't occurred to you to do something different because you're not aware of the fact that you're doing what you're doing. And there's probably a lot of really wonderful things that you aren't doing, that you could be doing, that would feel wonderful to have done, that would enhance, expand, increase your self-concept, your self-image, that would just be good at an experiential level for you to do. And like literally, you're not doing them because there's something wrong with you. You're not doing them because you're lazy. You're not doing them because you're not stupid or because you're not talented or because you didn't go to college or any of this stuff, or because you made a mistake when you were X number of years old or whatever. You're not doing this stuff because it hasn't occurred to you to do those things. And I thought about that, and it really disturbed me in a wonderful way, because I said that probably at the end of my life there will be wonderful things that I could have done that I didn't do. And probably one of the major reasons that those things will remain undone, it's nothing like fatalistic or destiny-based. It's simply, it didn't occur to me to do that. They came in my life and go, shit, it could have been a lot of fun, and really, it could have been really fun to learn how to be nicer to people, to actually feel like being nicer to people. You know what I mean? It's just a nice thing to do. And I spent a lot of years not being very nice to people. I mean, I wasn't like terrible to people, but I wasn't always as nice as it would have been rewarding for me to be. And as I began to consider and contemplate, like, what state would I need to be in order for being nice to people to be more of my kind of default thing, because they seem to like it, I seem to like it. Sometimes in the beginning, I'd start being nice to people. I'd just say something kind or be nice to somebody when I would normally be neutral or kind of a little bit of a jerk or whatever. And I'd come away from it, and I would just be like, oh boy, oh my God, I just feel so good. It's like, and I guarantee you they forgot about it way before I did. I felt enlivened. And years I spent not doing that because I wasn't aware enough of what I was doing to know that I might be able to select something better to do instead. And so that's not what this course is about in the kind of specifics, but in a big picture kind of way, that's exactly what this course is about, right? Increasing your awareness so that you can recognize opportunities, the recognition of which will automatically impel you to take advantage of them. You're not adjusting yourself to some external standard of perfection. This is about making it so that you're looking at what's going on inside you, so that you have more chances to go, maybe I want to do that different. Maybe I'd like to rearrange that. What would happen if I did? There's nothing wrong with the arrangement of the furniture in your mind right now. But boy, it's nice to rearrange the furniture in a room sometimes. Sometimes it's nice just to switch things up and enliven it and freshen it up. And so that's really what this is about. That's sort of the philosophy underlying our approach to this stuff. Was there anything else? I can't think of anything. Do we want to talk about?
Just a couple of the details. If you're interested in enrolling, we are starting 2 weeks from tomorrow, so it's September 23rd. We meet on Thursdays. That's going to be like our class night. If you enroll right away, you'll have access to the first 2 modules of the 10-module course. You can jump right in, start just like seeing what this framework is all about. Also, we're doing an early bird special. So now through Monday, enrollment for the 10-week awareness school is, I think it's $500 off. There's also payment options. And also you'll get access to Beyond Belief, which is another super awesome kind of mini course, but very, very helpful for if you've ever wanted to believe something and you've struggled to adopt that belief. Like, I can be successful, I can make lots of money, people like me. If you've ever wanted to adopt a belief, the Beyond Belief course will take you through a stepwise process for adopting beliefs that you want to actually believe this, but you can't just say, okay, I believe this now. So the Beyond Belief course is going to be included for the early birds, people who enroll now through Monday. And yeah, we're going to meet every Thursday. There's a few bonus Q&A sessions, I think 3 throughout the 10-week program, where we'll meet for Q&A just to talk about, what's coming up for you, ways of deepening your integration, how to make this really useful. If you're using this, if you want to use it with clients, we'll give you tips and tricks for how to, make it work for you as like a business model. But yeah, it's going to be super fun. I'm really excited. We've never done this before. We've never walked through the course with people in this manner. And so like, I'm personally very, very excited because like I said, going through the material, our dog's back there and
Almost
she's about to knock over the tripod. And we've never, gone through it in this particular way. So I'm excited because it's the kind of thing, like every time you do it, it's like, it's a internal refresher. It's going through and organizing. Even if you've organized your home before, stuff accumulates, and seeing things with fresh eyes, noticing, looking at these patterns, saying, oh, I didn't realize that was still hanging out back there. That one had, has snuck by me. And so I'm really excited to go through it in this fresh way. And we're excited for anybody who wants to go through it with us. This is the kind of thing that it's going to be fun. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your future, kind of set you up in this last quarter of the year for the new year. So, instead of like, okay, next year is going to be my year, like this is like the prerequisite work for creating an amazing year. So if there's something that you're wanting to launch, things that you're wanting to do, something that you haven't done yet that you're like, is 2022 going to be my year? This is going to help you to understand the deeper levels of yourself so that you can set yourself up for whatever kind of big thing you want to do in the new year. It's a great kind of capstone for this year. It's going to make 2021 really just kind of a defining year for you.
Yeah, who starts New Year thinking now? But now is the time to do it. And another thing too is that there's going to be like an email support component to this, and you can probably tell we're pretty enthusiastic about this stuff. We literally do. I can't tell you how much time I spend answering individual questions, kind of regardless of whether a person's working with me or not, and especially if you're in a course or something. And you're determined to get it, you know what I mean? And we will help you get it. I mean, I basically write books in email format for people in an effort to convey, because I know if I can do a good enough job, I know these ideas are solid and they're good. And if I can do a good enough job of articulating them to you, get it in. This is sort of an obscure metaphor, but I like it. There's something called an ionophore, and it's basically like, okay, so you got a cell, and here's a really great nutrient that if it could get into the cell, it can make the cell do cell stuff better. But sometimes the stuff has a hard time getting into the cell because there's a cell membrane, and you got to have something else to pair with it to get it through. And that's one of the reasons that I tell so many weird, and I got like 5 stories that I wanted to tell that I didn't, probably for the best. But like, and so I'm trying, I'm trying to. You're great, the ideas are great, right? The only question is am I going to do a good enough job of explaining the idea to you, using the words, sequencing them in a way that lets it penetrate the part of your mind that needs to be gotten to, so that you can go, wow, there it is, right? And that's what all of this stuff is about. And so if you're looking for that kind of, we do our best to make understanding inescapable, so that anyone who wants to understand this stuff, who's really willing to do the work to because you do have to make this stuff your own. That is true. It's not something that's done to you. You don't just read the course and go, okay, now I know how to live my life. You read the course, you get an idea for how things work, and then you go into your moment-to-moment life experience, the same old life that you've been living all this time, and you start doing little things in slightly different ways, and you get a little result, maybe not a result. Okay, I need to go back, I need to try again. There's a part of me that's resisting this idea. Have I misunderstood the idea? Could he put the idea to me in a different way? What's a way that we could sneak this idea in to the area that it needs to be, so that it can start generating results for me, so that I don't care if I like it or not, I like the results, and so I'm going to go for it. So it's going to be a really kind of immersive and intense 10 weeks, right? That will set you up for a year plus of self-study and implementation in the new year. Doesn't take a lot of time. That's one of those things. Sometimes people are concerned that this stuff is I don't have time to do this. Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. You attend the meeting. Ideally, if you can't attend the meeting, you watch the meeting after the meeting's happened. You can split it up into 5, 10, 15-minute segments. Everyone really has time to do this stuff. The majority of the time required of you, so there are videos, there are live sessions, there are notes, there are audios of the notes. There's an implementation guide with exercise recommendations just to kind of get you started. Most of the time that you're going to be investing, though, in mastering this material is going to be like net time, no extra time. When you're driving in your car, what are you thinking about? When you have a fight with your partner, when something's going at work that you don't like, wait a minute, do I have a tool for this? Do I have a skill for this? I can't think of it, or I don't want to use it. Let me just at least observe what I'm doing a little more closely than I normally would. Let me observe my attitude. I don't have to change my attitude, but let me just watch my attitude and say, that's my attitude, right? More than I normally would. So that's where the majority of the time investment is going to go. Practical implementation, because that's where the changes happen. And we'll tell you stories of how those changes have happened in our lives. But you play with this stuff in the moment-to-moment experience. I mean, I remember I believed this stuff was good. But then I started using it, and I changed how I felt in an instant. And then there was a part of me that was surprised. I was like, well, that's interesting. I paid all this money for all these courses and learned all this stuff and told people about it. Why am I surprised that I got this result? And so there are parts of us sometimes that are skeptical about. Parts of us think we're just entertaining ourselves, we're just fooling ourselves. Here she goes, she's doing another of this. Okay, well, whatever, let's let her do it. But then all of a sudden, you actually transmute an experience, or you respond to something in a more useful way, and then you sort of go, who did that? Oh, that was me. Interesting. And then that whets your appetite for what's possible, because everything's just a preamble and a prelude to something else. And so this is, I think that the Effort of Life course, Ankle Awareness School, is a wonderful preamble to a new, more conscious, more empowering, more fun, more fulfilling life. And so that's what we're envisioning. That's what we're going to make it for you. That's what we're going to be using for ourselves too, because we always get so much out of revisiting this stuff.
Totally. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to message me or Steve and let us know. We'll probably do another live this weekend just to answer questions and to talk more, to see, if we can help you guys connect to these ideas and get you excited about it. So, thanks for being with us tonight. Have a great one, and we'll see you again soon.
See ya.